Right, so in the end I've decided that this red I'm not happy with. I've tried it at different opacity levels and how transparent the layer is, and I'm not too happy with it. So I select the layer, I can get myself one of my earlier dark browns using the fill tool, bucket tool. I put a bucket on it, and whoa, I just think that makes so much difference. Makes it quite a lot stronger in terms of the atmosphere. Trying to get the mood in, although it has taken it a lot away from a pleasant beach scene. But I think with the kind of animals I'm using, there's this kind of strong, powerful animal feeling to it as well, to the nature. My landscape is maybe still a bit pink, so I'm going to work on that now. Right, so I've been looking at the landscape, and it's too pinky, and you know, my beach scene I think is a much sort of darker beach scene, and it's late afternoon if you look at sunset actually, and therefore it's not a bright midday beach scene. So what I've done is I've made a copy of the beach layer, and I've then gone and changed the colors in it, and I've particularly used exposure. So I changed the exposures down, and then I've put it back, and you can see that now it looks more like a evening scene. And zoomed in like this, you can see that the shadow on the lightness I did on the face is not realistic enough, because it just like cuts. And so now using a much softer brush, I can go in with a higher transparency and just soften areas of the shadow. So it's a little bit more naturalistic. I can take my eraser, close my softness, just bring up some light. Just to bring up the way this cat is sort of coming at you more. So the lighter it is, the more forward it comes. I'm also looking at my queen, and I'm thinking maybe I can play a little bit more with my tonal curves. And here's my shape, and I can just see if that blends a little bit more into the landscape as well. So it's that versus that, and I think that's slightly better, where I've made the curves a little bit darker, so that I've brought this curve closer to our projected line here. Okay, so at the moment we save as usual. Every 10 minutes you should be saving. I didn't show you that either. Right, so basically what I've been doing is I've been adding some of the details in. So what I did is I went and I had a look for a whole lot of different colors. You can see looked for different colors that I could find. I've loaded different colors, and I've tested different ones, and then it was a case of putting them in. So the first thing I did was that I put a color in to the vulture, and then I put a color onto the leopard, and so now we can see there we have, so they're more like domestic pets and not just wild animals in relation to the figure. and basically I used the same tools. This is the main tool to cut with, the pass tool to cut them out. I used the burn tool, I used the smudge tool, I used the heal tool, which is something you can try, very similar to the clone tool, where I wanted to clone some of the pieces. And then I basically went to colors, and I used the color temperature, exposure, and I got it to harmonize. The beauty of these color layers is that you've, in the preset, you always got a history, so you can always use your last one that you've just used to get. You can see all my pictures now are getting a nice orange glow to it. And so that's where we're up to at the moment. Now the question is, how do we connect the animals to the woman, and what should we do to do that? So we'll continue with that next. Okay, the other thing I didn't mention is one of the big tools that I've been using to get this particular color into shape is the perspective, shear, handle transform, warp transform, cage transform tools to bend it into the right perspective. And at the moment I haven't added in any shadows yet, so I could just put in another clear layer, color shadow, and just using the brush tool with black. I'm on I've put in a atmospheric layer, which actually has worked quite nicely. I'm quite pleased with that. Oh yes, very pleased with that. So that's quite good. So I can call that atmospheric 2, and go back to color and put a layer in that is transparent and with no effects, and that'll be our color shadow. And that I can just bring in with a brush very easily. And on your keyboard you've got next to the P a little square bracket, and if you press that square bracket you can change the brush size on the keyboard. So here I'm holding it down and the brush size grows, and that's quite convenient to quickly get a shadow in or something, to change your brush size, sorry. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm adding in a bit of a darker shadow there. Just to show where that is 100% opacity, my shadow layer is 100%, so it should be coming in. Let's just have a look at it. Whoa, and you can see the error that we got there. The mouse jumped up, so I have to go back a few steps. Make the brush smaller. And of course it's under the layer under the color. You can see once again I can work on that layer. Okay, and there we go. So just try to burn it a little bit. Just to bring up the oranges. And there we have it. And if it's too bright I can take it down a notch just to give it a bit of realism. And there we go. The other thing with this color is the light is actually coming from the wrong side, so I'm going to have to burn the side of the collar. So I'm on the collar layer, and just burn the side of the force it a little bit to burn more, so that we're consistent with our light. And then we might want to dodge a bit over here. So again, I want a nice soft brush, can make it quite opaque. Just pick up some of the shadows and a bit of the light on that side. Zoom in, check what we've done, and it's picked up the shadows a little bit. Changing the brush size just to emphasize the reflections, etc. Dodge again, burn again, soften some of these. Brush size up. I think that works quite nicely. Right. Since I last saw you, okay, now what we've been doing is adding more details. I felt that we needed another animal in, using the same tools again. I basically introduced the hyena behind her, like peeping out there, creating a sort of circular, triangular composition around her. The hyena looks a little bit lonely there. Increased his shadow, just that his the shadow on the ground is a little bit darker where he is, and then I gave him a collar, so that if we actually look at our hyena, we can see that he's standing there. I also, once again, been using the color hue temperature, and I've been using my history one quite a bit because to get that yellow, to make everything the same kind of hue, this yellowish, orangish kind of color. Okay, so you can see the composition now. And there it is. Right, so here we have the composition. I've harmonized my colors. I used 2 atmospheric layers. One I found by mistake, which is the nice yellowy layer, against the reddy brown layer. Together they make a nice orange. It gives it warmth. There's a nice harmony. I've got my animals in as symbols. I've got them collars, all wearing different colors, so that you can see that they're tame. And we've got our queen standing in this landscape at sunset. It's on the beach. It's looking great, and I think there's just one more thing I'd like to do, and also just to show you how to open something in a different way. So we can say open as layers, and here I'm going to look at some lens flares, see if I can find a lens flare that I enjoy. When I'm looking for a yellowy one, actually, possibly. So let's go again. That one. So these are a bunch of lens flares that I downloaded. Oh, there's a nice yellow one. Open it up, and it comes directly into my composition. So that's quite nice. And there we have it there, and it comes in as a layer, which is quite nice as well. Okay, so he's going to move it over there. I'm going to go Shift S to scale, leave my proportions now, raise it up, hit enter, get a nice size, move it to this side because that is where my sun is. The only problem is now that the black is in the way, but the beauty of, if you've got just a solid background, of getting rid of it, you can just go dodge and it clears it out, and you can see I can still scale this image even more. And so now we get a beautiful sun from that side.